This podcast was produced on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation.
Welcome to Australia.
Aussie.
This is kind of tragic.
Someone who is such a connoisseur of reality television.
The content is hideous.
So sorry about this. Oh my God.
Welcome back to The Cringe is Real, the podcast that cringes along with Australian reality TV and pop culture at large. I'm Sam Cremian, and to conclude my Eurovision coverage for this season, I'm joined by the one and only King George Mladenov of Bankstown. King George is of course known for his iconic appearances on Australian Survivor Brains vs Brawn and Heroes vs Villains. And George is also a huge Eurovision fan and was in the arena for the live final. King George Mladenov, welcome to The Cringe is Real.
Thanks, Sam. It's great to be here from Malmö before I leave in about 6 hours.
Yes, coming to me live.
Live from Sweden.
How is Malmö compared to other contests you've been to?
Well, I think I've had a good time in Malmö, but it's been a bit different. So obviously it's been a bit tense. I think that's one word that you can use to describe this Eurovision. Bit of a shit show as well from maybe the EBU's perspective, with a lot of the kind of the drama that was going on with Israel's participation or not, and Netherlands in and out and being disqualified. I can't recall that ever happening, but I think as a Eurovision fan in Australia, and then as they are around the world and in Europe in particular, it's one of the few things we have to look forward to every year. So I made the decision to come to Malmö to weave it into an American Survivor tour that I've been on for the past 8 weeks. I'm going back to the US for a final 2 weeks. And I enjoyed myself. But if I were to compare it to Liverpool last year, it's chalk and cheese. Like, Liverpool was just this gigantic celebration, whilst Malmö was just tense.
Yeah. Look, I absolutely hear you. And it was one of the reasons I thought this year was probably a good one not to attend, as much as I love it. And I'm with you. Like, Eurovision is a part of the year that I look forward to every year. It's full of so much joy. And unfortunately, this year there was kind of a dark cloud over it. How do you feel about the end result, our winners, Switzerland?
Well, I'm glad that they won. I think that's the short end of it. I thought Nemo had a great song. Was it my personal favourite this year? It wasn't. But I think for the first time in a long time, I think there were like 6 very viable winners despite the betting odds here at Malmö 2024. I thought Croatia was going to get the job done. I was worried that the juries might not give Baby Lasagna a high enough score, but like when the results were coming in, and I didn't think Nemo would totally wipe the jury score, but I'm really glad that they won. They deserve it, and it's great representation as well, and a good song won.
Oh, absolutely. I'm with you. It's not my favorite song of the year, but I think what it does for the community is huge. We love to see the representation, and undeniably a great performance. Like the technical aspect, the vocals, they're running around. Was quite impressive to witness.
It was most definitely a good performance, and I think being in the arena at the semi-final and the final, it was incredibly impactful. It was a very strong winner. So the fact that we got an upset, because I think Nemo, they were the 3rd favourite going into the actual finale. Good. I like a good surprise. And if the 6-1 outsider sent the contest back to Switzerland next year, I'm delighted by that outcome.
It is a good outcome. Now, I have to say, you called it back when One Milkali first came out. You messaged me and said, looks like we're not qualifying this year, to which I was like, oh, surely not. This is a fantastic song. And sadly, you were right. Why is it that you think we didn't make the finals this year?
I changed my mind when I came here and saw us at the first semi-final. I was surprised we didn't qualify. I thought the final minute of the song was fire. It was spectacular. Unfortunately, sometimes in that Eurovision bubble, particularly with the more committed fans, they get kind of like a set kind of decision on whether they like or don't like a song when they first hear it. And I think any reasonable person would say that that video clip that SBS uploaded didn't do Electric Fields any favors at all. And sometimes you need to go on a toilet break during Eurovision. So, what my fear was, as cruel as it sounds, is people decided it was a toilet break and didn't vote for it. In saying that, I think if you watched the entire 3 minutes, the final minute was very, very strong. But yeah, if you weren't there to watch the final minute, you used Australia as a toilet break. It's just disappointing. But I actually thought we were going to qualify. I thought between Australia, Cyprus, Serbia, and Slovenia, um, only three of us could get through, and I was confident, having seen us at the jury final and then on the night, that we would scrape through in either ninth or the 10th spot. I think when the results came out, Slovenia just pipped us to the post. But there were three Balkan countries in that first semi-final, all three of them, to be fair, and it looks like the Balkan block vote knocked Electric Fields out.
Yeah, I think you're right. Were there any other surprises for you with the semis, with who qualified or who didn't?
I really liked Czechia in semi-final too. I was
Yes.
shocked that did so badly. Like, that was a vibe. I, Latvia wasn't my cup of tea, and it was
Mm.
the least likely to qualify based on the betting odds. And he did, so that was a shock. But I think aside from that, everyone who probably deserved to get to the final got there. But I don't want to sound harsh on Australian Electric Fields. I think based on what was delivered on the night, we really should have qualified. I think it was a bit harsh that we didn't, but um, you know, still had a good time.
Who were your favourites on the night?
I really enjoyed Ukraine. Um,
Yes, me
I
too.
thought I thought there was a very realistic chance of Ukraine winning it, and to be honest with you, I thought the kind of jury score that Nemo got is how Ukraine would have ended up finishing off on the night. But I just can't believe the Swedish producers put Ukraine second in the running order.
Mm,
Correct me if I'm wrong, they got producer's choice, and that was a choice, putting Ukraine second. But in the arena, Ukraine was like fantastic. You could feel those special moments. But watching Ukraine back on TV, particularly the final kind of like 30 seconds of the song, that was the by far the most emotional of the night. In saying that, the most fun of the night was definitely Croatia.
yeah, right.
Croatia, I can understand why they won the televote. And the issue for Croatia was always, were the juries going to let Croatia win? And we got the answer, and the answer was no. The second year in a row, a jury favourite one. I suppose that's how Eurovision works, but I think they were my personal favourites. And then you always have the favourites that you know aren't going to win, but they're a party. For me, that was Austria. Like, Austria was just
Hmm.
fantastic. But yeah, I had my money on Ukraine. Unfortunately, we're not going to Lviv next year.
I know I'm Devo as well because I don't think I can afford a trip to Switzerland. So looks like another one watching from home for me.
Just
Um,
start working on some side hustle income options.
exactly. What were the crowd faves?
I feel like the crowd was behind Croatia.
Yeah, right.
Croatia had the biggest response in the arena. And to be fair to Nemo, Nemo also had a gigantic response.
Were you surprised that Ollie Alexander from the UK got no love from the public?
I wasn't surprised. I mean, I always tell myself, why do people like certain Eurovision songs? And I liked Ukraine because I felt an emotional connection with the song. And it, almost brought me to tears at the end. And France gave me goosebumps. And Austria and Cyprus were fun. And you can put Croatia in that same category. And Switzerland was just overall spectacular. what was good about the UK song? It was basically, something you wouldn't watch on Pornhub.
Yeah, I don't
So
know. I
if people
still,
were surprised by it,
yeah,
then, so be it. But it's just like, I always give the UK a pity vote, and this is the first time I basically haven't.
there you go. I feel like they're playing it all wrong, like just sending big names and trying to do fancy stuff. But like you said, just give us an emotional connection.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. It's just like, it's not necessarily Ollie that was the wrong choice. I think it was just the staging. It's just like, why? Like, it's like someone at the BBC signed off on that, and it's just like, what did they think the outcome was going to be?
Hmm. What do you think about Bambi Thug from Ireland?
I was a big fan of Bambi. I liked Bambi when they got chosen in the Irish selection. I remember watching it going, "Ooh, that set looked really cheap, but this has a lot of potential at Eurovision." Then it was one of the songs that I kind of forgot about on Spotify. I'd listened to it from time to time, but it didn't have it in my favorites list. But when I saw Bambi's performance at that first semi-final, I was just telling myself, "Wow, this is just so spectacular!" And it looked great on TV when it aired as well. And I'm really happy for the Irish because they're so passionate about Eurovision. And Bambi was a very particular kind of performer and artist there. And it was good to see that they did so well overall in the competition,
Hmm.
particularly with the juries. Like, my fear for Bambi was that the juries wouldn't respect them, but I'm glad that they did.
Same. And it's great to see Ireland back in the game with something unique and fun. Two other faves I want to talk to you about of mine anyway.
Mm.
Spain. Were you on board with
Mm.
Thora?
Well, like Sam, you've been to a few Eurovisions. There's always a squad of very good-looking Spanish men there. And once I found out that Zora meant meant whore, that's what it got told to me. I was like, wow, I have so much more interest and intrigue in this song now because I think that was one of the songs lost in translation, but this lovely Spanish doctor was explaining to me
Oh,
that it was about reclaiming the word so it wasn't so dirty and it's something that you can be proud of. And then when we saw when we saw that whole entire performance by Spain, I was like, do you know what? That's good. But I'm still a little sad that Caliente didn't make its way to Eurovision
yeah.
because that probably would have gotten all 20 of my votes, Sam, between you and me. The hot
The
male
Spaniards do
Chanel
it for you.
really is what I've been waiting for. Yeah.
As always next year. What about Zari from Greece?
Yeah, that was I don't know, maybe put it down to personal preference, but I just didn't connect with the staging. I thought that song had a bit of potential. And when Marina got announced as the artist, I got a bit excited. I actually put a little bit of money on Greece to win. And then the song came out and I went, "Oh, probably not gonna win, but it might be top 10." But yeah, that staging was just a bit, I don't know. It was like I think it looked better in the arena than it did on TV, to be
All
honest with
right.
you. But who am I to, I'm no choreographical expert. But yeah, I just didn't like that one camera take. It just kind of looked weird, I think, when you watched it back. And maybe that
Hmm.
explains why Greece didn't do as good as we thought they would.
Certainly a divisive entry. If you had to pick a girl bop of the year between Cyprus and Georgia, who is it?
Hmm. Well, I liked Luxembourg too, but
Oh,
I'm going to
yes,
be
true.
biased and
She
say
was there.
Cyprus. Yeah, I just felt like really proud as an Australian. We've got this third generation Australian, 17-year-old from Sydney, um, who came up with a really incredible performance. And I think Cyprus was one of those borderline qualifiers, and then it qualified quite easily. And then I just told myself, maybe SBS didn't have their finger on the pulse when they were choosing which Australian to send, and maybe we should have sent Cilia, and we would have been, almost on the left-hand side of the leaderboard like Cyprus was.
Yeah, she did a great job. And do you think overall Sweden did a good job as hosts? I know it was a tough year to present, but the package overall you're happy with?
Look, if I'm going to be realistic, it was very tense on the ground, Sam. But there's certain things that didn't happen in Malmo. There was no security incident. There was no time that I felt unsafe on the ground at night. There was a very big and visible Swedish police presence, but they were so hands off, which is what I enjoyed. They let the protest happen. They were very efficient in their security screening. So on a logistical level, I think the Swedes nailed it. I mean, it's not their first rodeo. But I think from a TV production perspective as well, I mean, I don't think anyone does it better than SVT in Sweden. To hit that level of kind of humor that Petra Mede does, and I know she's an absolute superstar when you think about it, but we just had great interval acts, great jokes, great entertainment, and it was overall, controversies and tension aside, a pretty good Eurovision.
Yeah, I thought Petra did a great job. Even though by the end there, she really looked ready to
I
get out
think
of
she
there.
needed a stiff drink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh my God. Hey, so your book, How to Win Friends and Manipulate People, a guidebook for getting your way, is out now. What can people expect from that one?
Well, it's a very popular book, and I'm very proud of it. When my publisher told me it sold over 5,000 copies in the first week and a half of its release, I think that makes it eligible for a New York Times bestseller status on the second print run. But my book, it's not an academic book. It's a entertainment book with practical application. So there are various chapters and themes where I tell stories where you can help skew the odds in your favor in your life whilst also being entertained. And there's lots of kind of personal anecdotes that I share from my life and my, particular context and experience. And I firmly believe that if you apply that in your life, you'll be able to get better outcomes for yourself and for others, whilst also hearing a lot of good survivor stories.
Any Eurovision stories as well?
Yeah, I do have a Eurovision story in there. I think for me, I kind of had like this mental shift when I decided I was going to start living my best life in 2019. And, I think part of that was I'd always told myself two things I'd always wanted to go to: a football World Cup and Eurovision. And then there was always a reason why I couldn't go, whether it was my past work life or some kind of personal circumstance. And I remember, and I do put this story in the book. I remember sitting at my old job when I was working at the New South Wales Health Ministry, and my manager was behind me, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was looking flights to get to Tel Aviv, which the first semi-final was starting in 2 days' time. And then I'm like, "Can I go on leave?" And she's like, "When?" And I'm like, you know, Friday. So I ended up walking up to the executive director. I got the leave approved for 10 days, and I went to the 2019 Eurovision. And then I look back, and it was like, I think that spontaneous decision to do something for myself, to put myself on a pedestal, was a bit of a turning point in my life. It was a rock, that song, but sometimes you do have to do that. And like when I share that kind of Eurovision story, that pedestal kind of song has the exact same message, where you do have to treat yourself and reward yourself and make time for yourself and put yourself on a pedestal. And like I remember when I got back from that Eurovision, now a lot happened, in 2019, including the pandemic. But it was just kind of like reinvigorated myself, and then gave me the confidence to do a successful Survivor application, which ended up changing my life.
We love to see it, and you certainly are living your best life now. George, thanks so much for joining me to talk about Eurovision. I will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to The Cringe is Real with me, Sam Cremant. If you would like to support the show, rate, review, share, and tell your friends about it. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter. Links are in the show notes.